Hello folks, how are you doing today? Today we're going to talk about a little bit about the history of magic. Now, let's cover a little bit. The Golden Dawn has definitely been a very influential magical movement for the Western world. I believe that it gave us astrology and tarot. And so where did that come from? And where did the other influences came from? Let's go. What we know about magic today, we owe greatly to the Golden Dawn. Why? The little segments in the newspaper about astrology did not come until 1930s and 1940s. Now, there were almanacs before that, which covered so much about how to farm and how do the stars move, but never in an astrological divination type of way. It wasn't until the 1930s once Crowley had popularized astrology through publications of his like The Equinox and other books and publications that made it public. Tarot was never a popular form of divination until the Rider-Waite deck, until movements of the Golden inheritors of the Golden Dawn came along and started popularizing it and making it live. And so, even though this is not absolute proof that we owe tarot and astrology to the Golden Dawn, but if it quacks like a dog, and if it sounds like a dog, and it walks like a dog, chances are that it is so. And so, where did the Golden Dawn come from? This is a book by a friend of mine called Poke Runyon that talks about the drama of the cipher manuscripts. The formation of the Golden Dawn, the Golden Dawn was formed by William Westcott, Woodman, and Mathers. And these men, Westcott and Woodman particularly, received letters from a mythical Rosicrucian woman, pay attention to that word, Rosicrucian, named Sprengel from Germany, that supposedly gave them the cipher manuscripts for their initiatory ceremonies and for their knowledge lectures, which are the operation of the Golden Dawn. The initiatory ceremonies are very much like Masonic ceremonies. Just to let you know, William Westcott and Woodman, they were high-ranking Freemasons in many different branches. And Mathers was the one that was guilty for drafting a lot of the initiatory ceremonies. And so Sprengel, now we have deduced that it was an imaginary character. She never existed. And so the Golden Dawn was basically just created by the creators of the Golden Dawn to make it more mythical, more ancient, and so forth, and particularly Rosicrucian. And so why Rosicrucian? One direct thing that we know about the Golden Dawn is through tarot. This is my copy of Israel Regarding the Golden Dawn, which is basically a bunch of papers from the Order of Stella Matutina. And so this little tiny book, this is the Golden Dawn Tarot, which was never published. My understanding is that these cards were drawn by Moina Mathers, the wife of Samuel MacGregor Mathers. And so before there was a Rider-Waite, there was this tarot, but Moina Mathers never published it. A lot of the work of the Golden Dawn was never meant to be published. It was just an internal mental exercise. They did not certainly need the money. A lot of them worked for King George. Were associated with very high elite circles of English society, famous actresses. Graham Stoker, who wrote Dracula, was very much likely a member. William Butler Yeats, who was a winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature. And so these were people that did not need the money, did not need to publish a book on tarot. And so they just did it for the mental exercise and for, being part of the club, which was a pretty cool, very, very cool club. And so Where did the tarot come from? Where did a lot of these ideas came from? This is the Tarot of the Bohemians, written by Jodorowsky's Papus. And it deals with tarot in very much the same way as the Golden Dawn. Jodorowsky was the first one to marry the old kind of like a poker type of cards where you have 1 through 10, and then you have the court cards, and then married that with the major arcana. And then once you have 22 paths and you have the 4 worlds, then he married them into the tree of life. And that is how we know the Tarot of the Golden Dawn today. But it was initiated by Papus, and it was a lot of the ideas came from the Stalisnastas, like Peladin, and so on and so forth. And so it is obvious that the Golden Dawn borrowed heavily from the Belle Epoque. But the Belle Epoque were artists, Rosicrucians. That's where the word comes again. The Belle Epoque, they were great artists and musicians. When I'm talking artists, I'm talking about like painting art, which also influenced a lot of movements like Cubism, almost likely, like Picasso and Dali and so on and so forth. But first, the Belle Epoque artists certainly influenced the Golden Dawn. And so kind of like builds step upon step. But then who influenced the artists of the Belle Epoque and the magicians of the Belle Epoque? People like Eliphas Levi with transcendental magic, and people like Martinez de Pasquale with the Elias Cohen. One thing that I should mention is the Martinez de Pasquale and Jodorowsky, they were both Spaniards. And so it seems like something was born in Spain and it got transferred into Paris, and it became popular in Paris, and it just got a hold of things. The Belle Epoque, like Martinez de Pasquale, they were Catholics. Papus, for example, he started a pseudo-Masonic, still a Masonic order, named the Martinists, who do like kind of like Catholic magic. Elias Cohen is also the same thing. It's kind of like Catholic magic with a little bit more liberties, but still pretty Catholic. And so, where did these Spanish get their stuff from? Well, actually, before we get there, let's talk a little bit about the Rosicrucians. These are two very important Rosicrucian books. Oh yeah, we used to let you know, the Rosicrucians of today are not these Rosicrucians. The Rosicrucians of today are not Le Belle Epoque Rosicrucians. The Rosicrucians of today are certainly not the Golden Dawn. They're very different schools. And so this particular book is a Rosicrucian book. This is kind of like the catechism of the Rosicrucians, which is kind of cryptic and is difficult to understand. The Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz is also a great source of Rosicrucian teachings, but it's also cryptic and it's hard to understand. And Rosicrucianism was born in Germany, most likely by a guy named Valentinus de Andrei. And where those Spaniards and the Rosicrucians got their stuff, because according to myth, also Christian Rosenkreuz, the founder of Rosicrucianism, went to Spain to try to get the Jews kind of on board with Rosicrucianism. They said thank you, but no thank you. And why did that happen? Is because of books like this, Cornelius Agrippa, who was also most likely a Jew. And that book, the 3 occult books of Cornelius Agrippa, are obvious translations from the Andalusian libraries. The Andalusian libraries were sacked during the Renaissance, hence the Renaissance, which wasn't the Renaissance. It was like, whoa, look, there are some pretty cool books by Plato and Aristotle and Euclid and Pythagoras. Let's claim that we invented all this. And mathematics from the Arabs. And that's why it's called algebra and algorithm. You know, it's like, I wonder why. And so there wasn't really a Rosicrucian, there wasn't really a Renaissance. It was just they discovered a bunch of stuff from the Andalusians who they kicked out, who the Spanish crown kicked out. And so before there was a Renaissance, there were books like this. There's the Zohar of the Jews by Moshe de Leon, and the Jans al Marif. This is one of the greatest grimoires ever. But this English translation is not very good. It's kind of the Spanish one is actually way better, but it is not published. It was, I think, a PhD program for a PhD guy who wanted to make a translation from one of those Andalusian authors, Albuni. And then the Zohar this is the foundation of Kabbalah. This was written around the 1200s, 1300s by, like I said, Moshe de Leon, and it was influenced by a guy like Moshe ben Maimon, and then other Kabbalists came along, like Abraham Abulafia, Cordovero, Isaac the Blind, Isaac Luria, etc. But it kind of stopped because of the fact that the Jews and the Muslims got kicked out of Spain. Okay, so if something came out of something, and that something came out of something, where did Kabbalah come from? Gematria, which is one of the most widely known forms of Kabbalah today, it's obvious that it came from the Greek Isiopsephos, which basically is a letter equals a number. Then the numbers do mathematical permutations or combinations in which they create a different meaning. Hebrew is more difficult, in my opinion. Why? Because Hebrew doesn't have the nuance that Greek does. This is why. First of all, let me clarify. I am mostly a Sephardic Jew, and I understand this to be true. Hebrew lost its roots once we got kicked out of Spain. We forgot Hebrew, and if you forget a language, and this was not the first time Hebrew Jews have forgotten Hebrew, or Israelites have forgotten Hebrew. It has happened many times. But when you forget a language, you forget the nuances of a word. For example, if I were to tell you the word home, home doesn't just mean a house. It means family, it means warmth, it means your bed, it means many different things. That one word has many different implications. Once you say Beth, it's just a word, because you do not know the deeper meaning behind it. We have to extrapolate meaning for it. But for example, the word logos, for example, in Greek, the word logos does not mean word exclusively. It means calculation, it means assessment, it means evaluation, it means interpretation, it means so many different things to so many different Greek writers. And so when we use a Isiopsephos for the extrapolation of other meaning within the numbers, it becomes wider. And that is why I believe the Isiopsephos definitely gave birth to Gematria. Moshe de Leon was not the most reliable guy in the world, and so obviously he probably borrowed from some Greek stuff which was available to those Jews because of the Andalusian libraries. And then I believe that the Greeks gave birth to a lot of what we now know of the Jewish Kabbalah or other forms of Jewish thought or mysticism. Where did it come from? It came from books like this. Well, not a book. This is the Greek magical papyri. And this, in my opinion, is one of the greatest grimoires that we have as a human race. It is filled with so much meaning and so much beauty, especially if you read it in Greek. If you read it in English, the translation's not bad. In fact, it was amazing because the Greek is really weird. Sometimes it's not even Greek, it's Coptic, and it just gets super weird. And thank you for the people that translated this book. And thank you sometimes for the scholars that do publish the original Greek or the original Coptic and put it into English side by side for us to be able to evaluate the beauty of this particular book, which is filled with like mysticism and magic and myth and the beliefs, and it goes way beyond the Greek tragedies and the Greek plays. For example, a lot of what we know about the Greek gods comes from plays, which is an erroneous way, in my opinion, to try to extrapolate the meaning of gods. The Greek magical papyri, for me, it is a way better, it gives us a way better insight of what the Greeks and the Egyptians and the Romans thought about their gods. Because I believe that the gods of the Greeks and the gods of the Romans, it is not who we think God is. We have been brainwashed by the Catholic Church for the last 2,000 years of what a God is, and it is not what those people thought about God. And that's, maybe it should be the next episode. My basis for this definition comes from the Iamblichus, from the mysteries of the Egyptians and the Chaldeans. And so hopefully you enjoy this small talk about the history of magic for the last 2,000 years, a little bit more than that. Thank you very much, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Thank you.